Texans signed some of their own players, including two of the most interesting in the recent stretch of Texans football. What does it mean for free agency? Does it mean anything? And could two huge names be available for D'Amico Ryans? Go inside the locker room.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the locker room on YouTube. You know what it is. Let's get it. Hey. Locker room. Yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk. Yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize every angle's what we really do. We the source. We the pulse of the city too. Landlocked. Got the game in the headlock. Localize every time. Can't stop, won't stop. Yeah.
All right, we got some moves. Texans making moves. They sign a couple of their own. D'Amico Ryans could have opportunity to add some guys on that D line that he speaks of in free agency. It's going to be here before we know it. One sleep till all the activity begins. Let's jump into this. This is not huge news, but it is news. What does it mean for the Texans moving forward? Does it mean anything? By the way, with this news, updating the scoreboard of the news breaking. The news breaking with the Texans, Aaron Wilson has taken the lead. He had 3 moves today. So Aaron Wilson has 3, Jeremy Fowler has 1, DJ Bieniemy has 1, and Ian Rappaport has 1. First one to tweet it gets the score. Just a little fun side thing to do. So the first move the Texans made today was signing Eric Murray. Eric Murray, I know he's a source of frustration for many. He was one of the moves that Bill O'Brien and Jack Easterby made when they were in charge. A really bad contract, if we're being honest. But what Eric Murray's become really in the last few years is about what he should have always been. He never should have been a guy that you paid like he's a really, really good safety. But Eric Murray, valuable depth guy, might not even make the squad. Who knows? Does this impact anything? I had someone ask me, does this mean that they're not going to sign a safety? No, I would say this has zero impact on that. But just a depth guy who I know that it's a polarizing topic because of the contract he did get and who he got it from initially. But he's basically right where he should be. Depth guy that you're not really too committed to. So there's that. They also signed Chris Boyd. Chris Boyd most likely going to be battling for a roster spot. You saw him on special teams last year. Wild, actually made some plays late in the season. He's always pumping up the crowd. Pretty hard hitter. Chris Boyd, special teams, Frank Ross special teams contributor last year. Probably going to have some competition in camp. Special teams is probably going to be the way for him to make the squad. But Chris Boyd, no impact on anything they do in free agency. Khalil Davis. I was a big fan of Khalil Davis last year. Khalil Davis, immediately from preseason, Khalil Davis was a good rotational guy. He was a guy who a lot of times you would see him in the backfield. Another year with D'Amico Ryans. I don't think there's ever going to be a scenario where you feel great if Khalil Davis is like a starter or something like that. But as far as a rotational guy, I think he gave you everything you could have expected last year. And maybe he only elevates his play the more he's around here. But again, a rotational guy. Des King, this one's interesting. The curious case of Des King. So last year, Des King gets cut in training camp. He ends up going to Pittsburgh. He gets cut again. He comes back. Actually has a pretty good finish to the season. There was a couple of big plays that he made that got kind of taken away from him. He should have had a touchdown in a game, forced a fumble in another, and both times he was kind of hurt by the whistle. But Des King is interesting. And the reason that I'm so intrigued by Des King, and again, I don't think Des King impacts anything you do. I think Des King's a depth guy. You don't have any corners, and you don't want to get to a point where Desmond King is a starter. I think that's the theme of all these guys. But the interesting thing about Des King is Des King just kind of shows the open-mindedness of this coaching staff and their willingness to not just once someone gets in the doghouse, just leave them there. And I think that was a weakness of O'Brien a few years ago. Once he kind of soured on you, you were dead. regardless of what happened, Deontay Foreman, he was dead. Jadeveon Clowney, he was pretty much dead. But Des King, they cut him, and then they bring him back, and now they're signing him again. Again, not a lot of money, but I just think it's interesting seeing the curious case of Des King. Doesn't really impact anything you do, though, but just really crazy to see what's gone on with Des King since he's come into contact with D'Amico Ryan. So how do these moves, and it is the locker room, be sure to subscribe, like, right along. How do these moves impact the offseason, whether it's free agency and the draft? I don't think they impact them at all. It's not going to stop you from signing a safety if they wanted to sign a safety. It's not going to stop you from drafting or signing a corner. You still need a starting corner. It's not like they think Des King is going to be their starting corner. It's not going to stop you from interior D line. And it's not going to stop you from bringing in other guys that are competing for special team spots and reserve DB spots. So none of these moves have any impact on anything. Frank Z says, Eric Murray, Desmond King, really, what'd you want to do? I mean, they're depth guys. They may or may not make the team. It's not like they chose them over the upcoming free agents, just depth guys, perhaps. And they might not be. Manny says Khalil Davis played like a year straight. Dude's baller, solid depth. Yeah, I like him fine. I don't think this impacts anything that the Texans will do. Something that could, though, and these are the interesting names. We'll get into all the running backs and stuff yesterday or tomorrow. We're gonna have a free agent frenzy, and we'll keep the lives going. This one's going to be a little bit shorter, just because. I mean, what am I supposed to do? An hour on Des King and Khalil Davis? Like, come on. Some people wouldn't even touch this. But Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack could be on the market. And these are intriguing names when you talk about perhaps adding guys on the edge and perhaps guys that would like to play for D'Amico Ryans. This is from Pro Football Talk. Bosa, who has only played 14 games in the last 2 years. He's been hurt. He's had foot injuries. He's been hurt. He is 28 years old. But Bosa has a $7 million roster bonus due on March 15th and a $15 million base salary. This is from Florio. Neither are guaranteed. And Mack has a $5.5 million roster bonus due on the same day. His base salary is $17.55. That's not guaranteed either. So it's hard for me to imagine that they're going to run it back with both of these guys on those deals. And perhaps either one of those guys would like a little bit of a change of scenery. Bosa's 28. Again, the injuries are a question. They're a valuable question with him. He's only played every game 3 times in his career. He's 321 tackles, 67 sacks, 15 forced fumbles, 4 recoveries in 93 games. I mean, when he's right, he's out there. Just hadn't been right in the last couple of years. And you look at Khalil Mack's age and you say, man, he's old. He's 33. He hasn't missed a game the last 2 years, and he had 17 sacks last season. You know, I just talked about the Eric Murray, how he went from overpaid to now he's kind of right where he should be. But some people, including myself, kind of have that slight cringe when you hear his name. Desmond King going from being in the doghouse to here. How crazy would it be if years after the Texans selected Jadeveon Clowney instead of Khalil Mack, he comes to the Texans at age 34 and is kind of like a mentor for Will Anderson. And that's another thing. I think that if Khalil Mack is the one that they decide to move on from, I think he's going to want to be on a team that can probably win games. He's found himself in some interesting situations with the Raiders, the Bears, now the Chargers. I also think he's one of those guys who's a perfect mentor for Will Anderson. He's a perfect guy to line up across from him. I don't know if either one of these guys get on the market, but if they do, they would have to be guys that D'Amico Ryans and Nick Caserio would at least be interested in. And I think one of them does. It's just a matter of which one. The other thing about it is I know that Joey Bosa, like, let's pretend he's healthy. His brother thinks the world of D'Amico Ryans. This was Nick Bosa talking about D'Amico before he got the head coaching job, and was with the 49ers.
Just the way he is as a coach and a leader is he's the best coach I've been around. I could say that, yeah. Pretty defensive coordinator for sure. I mean, I've had D-line coaches, but as a defensive coordinator, easily the best one I've been around.
What makes him so?
Just knowing the guys, knowing the team, obviously the scheme stuff, which I don't even deal with, but I just see what he does every week in meetings and how he addresses the young guys and us as a defense, and how hard he is on us, but how much he congratulates us and is positive at the same time. I think he just has really figured out how to perfectly push us, but not push us too hard and not give us too much credit. Just really good.
Kind of thread the needle.
Exactly, yeah. And it seems simple, but it's really not. He's gotten better at it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, has it always been?
No, I think he's getting better, just like us.
I mean, that's strong praise. So if you're looking for, at the end of the day, these guys are going to have to want to play here too, and Texans might not want them. Might be too risky with Bosa with the injuries. Khalil Mack, who knows? But I do think that those are two things to look at. And as far as Jonathan Grenard goes, testing the market, I think he's going to test the market, and that's another guy who's had trouble staying on the field to a certain point. Much younger though. But if you told me that you were going to get either Nick Bosa or Khalil Mack opposite of Will Anderson, I would say sign me up for that. Short term, whatever, long term, sign me up for that. The long term is obviously Will Anderson. The short term, you think with Bosa and Mack, but sign me the hell up for that. And we'll see how it goes. But if Bosa can go, we know he can go. If Khalil Mack continues to just do what he's doing, even if he falls off a little bit, gonna be a good thing to keep an eye on next week when free agency begins. So there was a trade in the NFL today as well. Jerry Jeudy goes to the Browns. 2 day 3 picks. Should the Texans have been in on Jerry Jeudy? My answer to that is really simple. Hell no. Jerry Jeudy has shown signs of being disgruntled in certain situations. Jerry Jeudy, he's going to be playing on his 5th-year option, so he's a little bit expensive. I think this wide receiver market, it's going to speak to a lot of these guys, and you can get them at bargains, and the draft is stacked with the wideouts. So Jerry Jeudy, that's a no for me, dog. I don't know that he would have come in here and wanted to be a 2 or 3. I think he's convinced himself that he still has number 1 potential, even though he's never been that. So that would be a no for me on the Jerry Jeudy front. No, thank you. So the Texans sign 4 of their own. Does it impact free agency? The answer to that is hell no. Should they be in on Khalil Mack or Joey Bosa if one of those hits the market? The answer to that for me is hell yes. And we'll see what happens tomorrow. Little free agent frenzy. We'll get into that. There's whispers on the internet about perhaps DeAndre Swift. Seems like there's a lot of Swifties in Houston that are down with that. Can't say that I'm opposed to it. Would be intrigued. The guy who put it out there, I'd never heard of. So sometimes those aggregators will pick up stuff, and then next thing you know, they're talking about guys making reports that don't really make reports. But that's going to be the most interesting thing. The running back, Texans keep some depth. Free agency not impacted at all today, but some really intriguing guys coming back. The 10 years of Eric Murray and Dez King, beyond interesting. Appreciate y'all for coming through. Subscribe, like, right along. This has been a quick edition of the Locker Room, just reacting to the news today. Appreciate y'all for coming through. Be sure to subscribe, like, keep it coming. We're almost 2 years into this. and we're all in it together.
We the pulse of the city too. Landlocked, got the game in the headlock. Localized every time, can't stop, won't stop. Yeah, we top 2 and we not too. Plugged in daily digital on YouTube. We got taste for days, opinions to give, we got takeaways. If it's up, then it's up. We number 1. You don't need to try your luck. Locker room, yeah, we in the